So in this video, we're going to discuss Jogo, the fire disaster curse spirit, and we are going to talk about his abilities, his skill sets, why he is so powerful, and honestly, why he never had a good matchup when it came to a fight in JJK at all. So if you want to hear about Jogo, then do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then hit the noti bell so that you could keep on watching more of my JJK content. Anyways, let's get into Jogo because he's hitting 8 out of the 13 characteristics that we look for in a JJK character. And if you're new to the channel, first off, welcome. Second off, those 13 characteristics are as follows. We got skill, durability, strength, speed, endurance, reflexes, intellect, hand-to-hand combat, cursed energy, cursed technique, reverse curse technique, domain expansion, and don't forget anti-domain technique. Jogo checks off 8 out of 13, which means he's pretty strong because the last couple characters we did was about 5 or 6 out of the 13. But let's start off with a little bit of background on Jogo because he's one of the more seen cursed spirits in JJK. That man cares about cursed spirits. He cares about the idea of cursed spirits replacing humans. He basically wants to see a world where cursed spirits are ruling. So if he lived 1,000 years ago in the Han era, he would have been happy because Sukuna was ruling that, and cursed energy, cursed spirits, everything about curses was thriving. So Jogo genuinely would have vibed back then. So he's basically trying to get us back to that level. So he aligned himself with Mahito's group. He really vibes with Dagon and Hanami, but as far as Mahito and him, I mean, it's 50-50 on that relationship. Sometimes they agree with each other, sometimes they don't agree with each other. But they also went ahead and got Suguru Gedo, or at least pseudo Suguru Gedo, if you're not tracking. If you are tracking, you already know Kenny Kenjaku. And he basically aligned himself with him because he thought that that's the best way to get rid of the A, Gojo threat, and B, get Sukuna on their side. Because if Sukuna's roaming, then you already know Jujutsu sorcerers are going to have a tough time in order to get him to not exist anymore. So cursed spirits are more than likely going to succeed if Sukuna is roaming. So that being said, Jogo's big plan is basically that he wants to see the world with curses coming back to ruling it. So that's basically what he's about, and how he's going to achieve it is basically the Sukuna route. Obviously, they sealed Gojo in Shibuya, and that's awesome. But if they couldn't accomplish that, honestly, he really just wanted Sukuna to deal with him. I can't really blame the guy because he has had horrible matchups when it comes to fighting. I don't count the fight with Nanami, Maki, and Naobito as an actual fight for Jogo. That wasn't a fight. That was not a fight. I don't care if you count that as a fight. It does not count. It's so bad, man. Like, one shot everybody, bro. And I'll come back to that fight, if you want to call it that, but it's just not a fight. What I mean by he had bad matchups in a fight is the fact that this man fought Gojo not once but twice, and he was just getting absolutely rocked. And then you're gonna tell me they take him out by having him fight Sukuna? And I get it, right? Because you see him absolutely dominate sorcerers, 2 grade 1 sorcerers and Maki, right? A person with heavenly restriction, and you see him absolutely dominate them, and then you put him up against Sukuna, who you have to hype up, because the only time we really saw Sukuna fight was Megami and Gojo up to this point, if I'm not mistaken. So you really need somebody to hype Sukuna up, right? And by doing that, you give him Jogo and you give him Maharaga, and that establishes his hype. I get that. The thing is it gives Jogo no room for genuinely putting his strength out there, because yes, you could make the argument in Jogo's favor where he not only fought Gojo once but twice and survived, and yeah, that's a feat on its own. But not many people, cursed spirits, anything survives encountering Satoru Gojo. People try to actively avoid him, so yeah, that is a feat for him. I get that, but I want to see him win a fight, and now I don't get that. So it's frustrating when you see him fight the 2 strongest entities in JJK, lose twice because obviously he's gonna lose, but then you don't see him fight anybody else. Like, yeah, you get to see him slaughter, and maybe that's the whole point they're trying to make, is that if he does fight anyone else other than those 2, it's just an auto win for him, because pretty much it is. But it's just frustrating not getting to see him fight anyone else, you know? So even Maharaga would have been a good fight between the two of them. But that's Jogo for all you guys who needed a quick update on Jogo and who he is, what he's done, and who he's fought. Let's get into his skill sets, all right? So starting off with skills, we have the man who controls fire. When it comes to water, you got Dagon. When it comes to the earth, you got Hanami. When it comes to the soul, you got Mahito. Here, we have the guy who uses fire. And fire is genuinely, next to lightning, is one of the coolest techniques you can have. I remember when I started watching Hell's Paradise and I saw him bust out those flames, I thought he was so sick. I forgot the character's name. It's going to come to me later. But it's so cool when you see somebody using fire. So when we saw Jogo bust out some fire techniques versus Gojo, yeah, absolutely awesome. And that's one of the things when it comes to Jogo is he relies heavily on his curse technique. He doesn't really care to throw hands. He more so uses the fact that he has more cursed energy than basically anybody in order to beat them by constantly spamming his attacks, because he has a plethora of different ways that he can use his fire to hurt you. And I know he has a ton of cursed energy, but just to get the record straight, because I got the Yuta in there, you know, my man Yuta, yeah, he got more cursed energy. And you'll see that when I talk about Yuta. Anyways, Jogo video. So Jogo, he has the skill sets of using his flames, and then we're going to move on to him using speed and reflexes. I'm going to do a two-parter in that because I need you guys to understand this man did not only just fight Gojo, but he fought Sukuna. And those boys are fast. Those boys are very, very fast. So for him to be able to fight them means he has to have some speed and reflexes in order to keep up. And I get it, absolutely. I know he wasn't keeping up with them. But you gotta think, man, anyone else, they wouldn't even be able to see the direction they were coming from. He's still able to react to the direction they're coming from. Not only that, but Naobito Zenin, fastest sorcerer alive next to Satoru Gojo. Yeah, what exactly happened to him? Yeah, Jogo beat him. Easy. Easy, bro. Dagon wasn't able to keep up with his speed. Yeah, Jogo didn't even care, bro. One shot. Easy. He was not impressed. Did you see his face, bro? He's not impressed. So, when it comes to speed and reflexes, you could chalk Jogo up in the anime at least. Not in the manga yet, but in the anime at least, you could chop him up to be the fourth fastest person in JJK underneath Yuta, Gojo, Sukuna, you know, those three guys. We're going to move on to durability because, again, you do not survive a fight with Gojo and Sukuna, and you're not going to tell me that the guy doesn't have durability, because he was able to heal himself from both of those guys. He was able to heal himself during the fight with Sukuna, and he was able to heal himself after the fight with Gojo. And this is, again, when they were learning about reverse curse technique and whatnot in Season 1. So they weren't the best with it yet. But against Sukuna, he was pretty good with it, so he was able to heal during the fight itself. So I'm going to give him his flowers when it comes to durability. The guy's got some pretty decent durability to survive their attacks. Especially the fact that he had his head ripped off and he was able to grow his entire body back after fighting Gojo. Come on now. He survived a red straight to the face. And you're not going to tell me that red is not a very, very powerful attack. If you guys forgot, because you haven't watched my Jogo Explained video recently, red has twice the output of blue. And since I'm talking about how much cursed energy he has, because he's been compared to a 8 or 9 fingered Sukuna, the man has an amazing amount of cursed energy, and thus he's able to use his cursed technique, Disaster Flames, quite often in a fight. And I mean quite often. He's able to shoot flames out of his hands. He's able to use them as beams. He's able to turn up the heat whenever he gets excited for a fight. He's able to use these insects that he calls ember insects, which have both a sound-based attack and a explosion at the end after they finish their chatter. So when it comes to his insects, he's also able to use them to grab onto his clothing so he could fly with them. And he's pretty quick when he's flying with them. He was able to fly against Sukuna with them. So I'm going to give him his flowers on that. But when he's not using his ember insects, he's not using his flames, he's not creating lava around the entire battlefield, he's not using his body parts in order to create mini volcanoes all over the battlefield that shoot out massive amounts of fire. When he's not doing all of that, he's able to use a maximum technique. And mind you, a maximum technique is the level below a domain expansion, because when you have pinnacles of Jujutsu sorcery, you have domain expansion, and right below that you have a maximum technique. So if you have a maximum technique, you more than likely are going to have a domain expansion if you don't already. That being said, his maximum technique is Maximum Meteor, and even Sukuna stated that if it hit, he would have actually had damage done to him. That's how powerful it was. It was able to wipe out a good bit of Shibuya. The fights that were happening outside of the Sukuna and Jogo fight, all of those people felt the vibrations from the ground after the meteor hit. Like, this meteor was massive, and it blew my mind, the fact that Sukuna, like, he acknowledged the fact that if he got hit by that thing, it actually would have caused damage to him. How much, we don't know, but I mean, Jogo's being compared to a 9-finger Sukuna. Sukuna had 15 fingers in him at that point. And the last two things I have to hit on when I'm talking about Jogo is the fact that that man was able to prep himself with an anti-domain technique in domain amplification in order to nullify Gojo's limitless technique, but he wasn't able to use his innate technique, vice versa. So at that point, it gets to hands, right? And I mean, he's not known for throwing hands, so Gojo got him on that part. And of course, the last thing I gotta mention is his domain expansion, because he has Coffin of the Iron Mountain, which is putting you inside of a volcano. And his sure hit factor is using the rocks inside that volcano in order to hit you with them. And mind you, I mean, they have lava on them, so A, it's gonna hurt, but B, majority of the sorcerers he's ever put into this domain expansion have died on impact because of the fact that they just blow up into fire. It's a volcano, bro. It's a volcano. So you're not surviving that upon impact, unless you're Satoru Gojo, of course. But that's everything you need to know about Jogo and the fire disaster. So, if you guys liked the video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, my people, and then hit the noti bell, and then you guys are gonna get either a Mahito video next, or, you know, we'll switch it up and do a sorcerer. You know, we'll see what happens. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.